Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another edition of With the Prophet. I'm Ali Coleman, I'll be your host. Our subject for today, new Muslims. Our guest, as always, for this episode, for this show from Saudi Arabia, we're honored to have with us Sheikh Assim Hakeem. Assalamu alaikum and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and it's a pleasure for me to be here.
Thank you. As we said, our subject is new Muslims. We're looking in this show at how the Prophet, peace be upon him, interacted with all the members of society. Today we focus on new Muslims. Without a doubt, we know that the Prophet, peace be upon him, was given a very great and noble task. That was to continue this calling of human beings to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, continuing this long line of succession going back to Prophet Adam, peace be upon him. Initially, the Prophet was terrified by his encounters with Angel Jibreel, and he was alone. There was not a Muslim ummah waiting for the Prophet to arrive. This meant that he was in a position to receive all of the new Muslims. The people we now know as the Sahaba did not meet the Prophet as Muslims. But what this means is that we can draw upon some great insights about how he managed nourished, maintained relations with these new Muslims. We want to be clear that we're not talking about making dawah, inviting people to Islam. Our focus in our show today is about nurturing that relationship after someone has made the decision to embrace Islam. That's our focus. Let's start with the critical moment after someone has understood what Islam is, what its principles and teachings are, the critical moment when they make the decision to either accept or reject Islam. Let's look at the Prophet, peace be upon him, what was his response, his reaction to people deciding either to accept or reject?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala abdihi wa rasulihi al-ameen, Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. The Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam, when it came to people accepting Islam, he was very jubilant and happy. You see, this was his purpose in life, and that is to worship Allah Azza wa Jal mainly through calling people out from the darkness into the light. So he spent endless hours calling disbelievers to believe in Allah and to follow his commands, to the extent that he might have gotten into a phase of depression when they rejected him. Not that he was depressed, a'udhu billah. He had Allah, the Almighty, to comfort him. And this is what Allah did. In a number of verses in the Quran, Allah Azza wa Jal condoles His Messenger by saying, perhaps you will kill yourself in grief or out of grief if they do not respond and believe. And Allah is telling him, don't do that. Don't be depressed. Don't be sad if they don't accept your da'wah. You've done your duty and your job, and the rest lies in Allah's hands. So whenever someone accepted Islam, the Prophet ﷺ can be clearly seen to be happy. A Jew servant, we mentioned this before.
Yes.
Just before he died, when he was sick, the Prophet visited him ﷺ and asked him to accept Islam, and he did. The Prophet came out from the house happy, with a big smile on his face, praising Allah and saying, praise be to Allah, for Allah has saved him from hellfire because of me. Ikrimah ibn Abi Jahl. We know Abu Jahl, the pharaoh of this ummah. His son, Ikrimah, when the conquest of Mecca took place, he fled Mecca. He didn't stay behind. And he traveled distances, and he did not have an aim to go to. And then he came in regret back to the Prophet ﷺ, wanting to accept Islam. Now his father was one of the biggest enemies of Islam. Yet when his son Ikrimah came, the Prophet jumped from his seat and embraced him and was so happy to meet him. Why? Because he came accepting Islam. Adi ibn Hatim, his father was one of the greatest men of Arabia, known for his generosity. And whenever you compare generosity to someone, you always say he is more generous than Hatim al-Ta'i. He's a well-known name. His son Adi, when he came, the Prophet hosted him in his house, gave him a cushion to sit down, and started to teach him and accept him. He was happy, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And this is how we should be when we hear that a celebrity embraced Islam. We're happy not because he is a celebrity, because a new brother of ours has joined the family. If a janitor accepts Islam, I'll be as happy as much.
We might not hear about it, but we should be.
Yes, but when we know, we are as happy because he's a new brother of ours.
So that's a good picture for us, that you're showing us that the Prophet, peace be upon him, was happy when people, and concerned when they rejected. This is important for us to help manage our expectations. We put ourselves under a lot of pressure when we make da'wah. I'd like to move to another a part of this. This also has to do with the context, the early Muslim context. Because Muhammad, peace be upon him, the Prophet of Islam, was drawing people to follow him, they weren't coming from Muslim households. They didn't have the teachings of Islam as generations of background that they were coming from. So all this was new. And so the question is, in terms of developing an Islamic heritage, some of the first things, the most important things that the Prophet, peace be upon him, ordered the new Muslims to do as a part of establishing this new ummah. What kinds of things did he see were of utmost and primary importance in the lives of the new Muslims?
If you're talking about what a new Muslim first steps should be, this is different than what and how the Muslim community is supposed to deal with this new Muslim. In a sense, that if a person wants to accept Islam, he pops the question, what should I, how would I do it? What should I do? So the procedure is simple. You take a full bath, which is highly recommended, though it is not mandatory, but it's sort of symbolic because you're going to cleanse your inside and purify your soul with accepting Islam, and you are cleansing your body from any impurity and anything that is not worthy of Islam. So there are hadiths where the Prophet ﷺ used to instruct those who embraced Islam to go and have a ghusl, total bath. And in some incidents, he might tell them to shave their heads. But this is rare. And the scholars said that shaving the head is when a person has a haircut that is specific for the disbelievers, like the Marines haircut, for example. This is not for Muslims. It's called qaza', or like, what is it, the tomahawk? The haircut like Mr. T or someone like that. This is un-Islamic, so he has to shave it, so that when I see him, I can tell that I can relate to him. He's a Muslim. And the Prophet ﷺ looked at the bigger picture. And what is that? You know what is the biggest problem new Muslims face? Is that when we call them to Islam and they make this massive shift from one religion to the other, and they leave their culture, they leave behind all what was normal for them all these years, This is not easy. You're letting go of everything that is dear to yourself if it goes against Islam. The biggest problem is when people call them to Islam and then they abandon them. So now he's like a loner.
Okay.
My community doesn't want me because I've left their religion, and the Muslims are not taking me in because they're busy giving da'wah to someone else. So this is like cultivating the land, throwing the seeds and leaving. You're not irrigating it, you're not taking care of it. Inevitably, it's going to die. Now, the Prophet ﷺ took good care of this, and he made it clear to the companions not to let go of their brother. So he would tell them to make a lot of dua. And this is step one. A new Muslim and an old Muslim. What is the most important dua of all? Ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make us steadfast on Islam. The Prophet ﷺ, most well-known dua, that he would not make any other dua more than it was, O turners of heart, make my heart steadfast on Islam. And this is the Prophet ﷺ. So you could imagine those who are below him, how vulnerable would they be to flipping? And a lot of those new Muslims, if not been taken care of, they'd flip. And Satan is there. He sees that there's great momentum when they accept Islam. So he leaves them for a couple of weeks, couple of months, maybe a couple of years, until it fades a little bit. Then he starts his attack by trying to lure them back to their old ways and habits. And if there isn't sufficient knowledge, then they would not make it. There are other steps and other ways that, if you wish, we could discuss that as well.
Yes, after the break, I would like to ask you about the things that the Prophet, peace be upon him, did to help combat misconceptions, false beliefs, old habits, all this kind of thing, when we come back, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to With the Prophet. Sheikh, before the break, we promised to get to the subject of how the Prophet, peace be upon him, dealt with the pre-existing beliefs and habits of the new Muslims around him. Did he change their names? Did he encourage that to be changed? How did he manage this process?
Well, the Prophet ﷺ did not use the same method with all.
Okay.
So it is dependent. There are so many Muslims who accepted Islam, and the Prophet did not change their names, ﷺ.
Okay.
And the vast majority of them, their names remained as they were. However, there are people, when they accepted Islam, the Prophet ﷺ changed their names, either because their names were inappropriate or it had a bad meaning.
We addressed this in one of our earlier episodes.
With the children,
yes.
Naming the children. So it is not the norm for someone's name as David, for example, to come and call himself Abdullah. Why is that? He said, I'd like to change my name. You don't have to. David is a good name. Michael is a good name. John is a good name. It's just a name. But if it's something that is the servant of Jesus, no, this is not permissible. If it is the name of their gods, for example, Rama or whatever, this is to be changed. If it is someone's name which is insultive, his name is moron, for example.
Right.
Yeah, you change this. But other than that, you don't have to. If you wish, it's okay, but it's not a must. See, these misconceptions, Muslims have them. Superstitions, Muslims have them. Not only new Muslims. So what and how to deal with this? The best remedy for ignorance is by far knowledge. And this is exactly what the Prophet ﷺ used to do. One of his companions, Tariq ibn Ashyam, says that whenever the Prophet ﷺ met a new Muslim, he would teach him how to supplicate, what to do. Whenever, in the story of Umayr ibn Wahb, he was an idol worshipper. He had a treaty with Safwan ibn Umayyah, who pledged to pay all of his debts in order to go and assassinate the Prophet ﷺ. So the guy goes from Mecca to Medina with a poisoned sword in his neck. And the companions saw him and wanted to prevent him. The Prophet said, leave him. And when he came and he said, why are you here, Umayr? He said, my son, Wahb, you took him as a prisoner of war and I come to pay his ransom. So the Prophet smiled and said, what about the sword? He said, may Allah damn these swords. They didn't help us in the battle of Badr. They were no good. So the Prophet told him, ﷺ, what if I tell you about the conversation that took place between you and Safwan ibn Umayyah near to the Kaaba 3 nights ago, and no one knew about it, so that you can come and assassinate me? The guy opened his eyes and his jaw dropped to the ground and said, by Allah, you are the Prophet of Allah. Not a soul knows what happened that night except me and Safwan, and he embraced Islam. So the Prophet was very happy that his assassin to-be became a Muslim. Not only that, the first thing he said to the companions, take your brother and teach him the Quran. Knowledge. This is the greatest barrier and the most feared topic that Satan hates the most. He fears it and he hates it because it would call people to get closer to Allah Azza wa Jal.
Knowledge, the best weapon against ignorance, pursuing knowledge. I'd like to ask about imposing sudden changes. These can come both from within. You know, maybe we say, I'm a new Muslim now and I have to do all these things and I have to catch up and there's so much and Islam is so vast. Or externally, maybe the people who are in the relationship with me, nurturing me, maybe they may have undue expectations. Maybe they want me to run too fast in Islam. What's the problem with making too many changes too fast?
If you cook something and you don't give it its paste, it's going to burn. And it's not going to be good. Things have to take place in order. Allah, the Almighty, created the heavens and the earths in 6 days, where He could have created them in less than a second. But there is a reason, there is a wisdom, and that is when things mature and take place in its proper time, it has strong foundation. And this is why it is not right to flood people with knowledge. So a person comes enthusiastic, would like to learn about Islam, and I give him everything that I've learned in the past 30 years in like 5 minutes. He would not be able to comprehend any of this. Not only that, he may find it an obstacle and a hurdle in front of him to move forward.
This is with Islamic knowledge. What about our old habits, as we were talking about earlier? If I was drinking alcohol, if I had many girlfriends, if I had a loose, jovial lifestyle, social life, whatever, and all that needs to change, does it apply to that kind of stuff as well?
See, da'wah and teaching is done with wisdom. Hikmah. What is the meaning of hikmah in Islam? Hikmah, or wisdom, is placing the right thing in the right place. So it would be illogical for me to go to someone and in order to encourage him to come to Islam, the first thing I say is, Partying all night long is haram. Booze is haram. You're going to stop doing crack. You have to let go all of your girlfriends. You don't listen to music. You don't watch movies. It's all the don'ts in the world in one pot, and he would not take that. But rather, you give the positive things. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ, in some incidents, for example, when a person came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, I want to accept Islam, but 5 daily prayers are too much. So the Prophet allowed him to pray twice. And he was the ruler and the messenger, so he can afford to do this. We can't. Another tribe, the tribe of Thaqif, who accepted Islam but said, with the exception, we will not go for jihad, we will not fight, and we will not give charity. And the Prophet allowed it. And the companions were shocked. How would you allow them to do this?
Right.
The Prophet said, once they become Muslim and strong in Iman, they will fight for the cause of Allah and they will give in charity. It takes time. So it is not at all wise to just bombard. You are selling. And your pitch, when you're selling or marketing what you believe, is that you have to be wise in pointing out things. So a guy comes to the Prophet ﷺ, and this is quite astonishing. We as du'at and callers to Allah, we have to put this in our mind. A guy comes to the Prophet ﷺ, and he says, tell me about Islam. He says, do you worship Allah and nothing else but Allah? Okay. Then what? He said, to pray 5 times a day. Say anything else? The Prophet did not say 12 rak'ahs voluntary, night prayer, witr, Eid prayers, eclipse prayer, nothing. He just said, no, unless you want to volunteer and do nafil. Tell me about Ramadan, to fast the month of Ramadan, 30 days or 29. Anything else? White days, Mondays and Thursdays, Arafah, Ashur. The Prophet did not say no.
Right.
This is what the guy, after hearing the pillars of Islam, said, by the one who sent you, I will not add anything to that. The Prophet didn't say, listen. There are lots of things. Once he left and departed, the Prophet said, whoever wants to look at a man from the residence of Jannah, of paradise, let him look at this man. Now this, compare it to what we do with a new Muslim. A guy who comes, a rapper, who is interested in Islam, and we know how rappers live. He said, oh, first of all, your body is filled with tattoos. Oh, this is, sorry, not good. And you have this and you have that, and your lifestyle and the money you have that you've gained from haram, you have to give it in charity. All your beautiful Ferraris and Chirons, Bugattis, you have to get rid. What is this? This is not Islam. Da'is, du'at should look at the bigger picture. Even if someone curses when I'm giving a da'wah, and he curses or says, Jesus, what the hell is this? Move on. There's a bigger pie. There's a bigger fish to fry. This is what we learn from the da'wah of the Prophet. Not that it is halal, but this is not the time to address it.
Sheikh, we have reached the end of the episode. There are a number of things that we didn't get to. I wanted to ask you about how the Prophet, peace be upon him, prevented confusion among the new, from being confused, and also this subject of incentives, incentivizing coming to Islam. But the good news is that we're going to come back again in our next episode to continue talking about new Muslims with Sheikh Assim. Until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.